Formula 4 average. If Italian fans cannot be happy about Ferrari, they have Kimi. Let's discuss the Canadian Grand Prix. As I just said, I think one of the best races of a couple of last years from Mercedes. And they just looked strong, and basically nobody had a chance to challenge them. And combining that with a great race and great start, actually, from Kimi Antonelli, they showed the pace throughout the race, which we have not seen so far from Mercedes, and that makes the championship even more interesting. That's great for us, great for the fans. And of course, Russell, as the lead driver of the Mercedes, he did what he needed to do, and he showed how good the Mercedes car can be. And it's good to see that they seems to be bouncing back, but Russell himself told that this is a one-off at the moment, and they do not expect that this kind of a bounce back for Mercedes in general is happening. It was a track-specific thing, and they do not expect in Austria to be as strong. However, here they were dominant, basically. They were not dominant in the sense that they were not like driving away for 20-30 seconds or whatever. The race itself, it was interesting in a way that all the time the cars were close enough to each other, and anything could happen through these races and through these laps. But the way Russell managed to defend basically in the opening laps of the race from Verstappen, who was right there on his gearbox trying to take that lead, and it was like a half a second or something, but he never had a real chance actually to overtake Russell, and Russell was there. He was just driving basically one of the best races of his career, in my opinion. And good to see. It's a good story, you know, when McLaren cannot perform for whatever reason. Then I was afraid that this race is going to be that Max will overtake Russell and then he's going to drive away, basically. Of course, Max doesn't have the most competitive car, or he does not have such a big advantage this year, but I was afraid that the race pace of the Mercedes will fall back, but it didn't, and that was great to see. So hats off to Russell. Did a great job for this weekend and deserves the win, so that's good to see. But as I said in the intro, Kimi Antonelli, his first podium of his career in Formula 1. Really happy to see that. The way he drove and the way he defended in the, let's say, closing laps of the race from both McLarens, that was great to see. And when coming back to when McLarens were closing to Mercedes in these closing laps of the race, I thought that okay, probably they will overtake him. I was kind of hoping that Piastri would get the good points. On the same time, I was hoping that Antonelli could get his first podium, because it's just a nice thing to see. But McLaren's never actually challenged in real open wheel-to-wheel battle. They did not challenge Antonelli. They were not able to challenge, and of course, as I said in the beginning, it seems to be track specific item, but still, Antonelli did not flinch. He did not made any mistake, and so it was good to see from from this rookie driver that he was able to defend against Oscar and basically also Lando, because they were both there trying to take the third place, and Antonelli stood his ground. And it just shows, if they have the car, then this rookie is able to perform. And let's remember that last three races, Monaco, Spanish Grand Prix, and Imola, it was a disaster for Antonelli. It was DNF, P18, I believe. So it was awful for him and awful for the team. So now coming home with a P3, just great to see. Great story. Everybody's happy. Team is happy. His dad was there. He's happy. Of course, himself is happy. Teammates is happy. I'm sure half of the paddock is happy. Maybe not the rest of the rookies, because this is their direct competition, right? But other than that, everybody is happy. So that's good to see. I'm really happy for Kimi, and I hope that his podiums and hopefully also race wins will come soon. So that was good to see. Nice story. Overall, nice and humble ending of Canadian Grand Prix, in my opinion, in a positive way. But we need to discuss, of course, Ferraris, and they had a disappointing weekend in all kinds of ways. I mean, they had bad practice sessions with Leclerc crashing out and everything, and then the qualifying also did not come to, in particular, to Leclerc. Hamilton was decent in the qualifying, let's call it that way, and I guess he drove the car in the limit. Maybe there was a, let's say, couple of seconds, no, it's not seconds, tens of seconds, maybe hundreds here and there. But overall, I think qualifying for Hamilton was pretty much more or less where you would expect. But of course, Leclerc was not able to have a decent time, so he started way back. I mean, for Ferrari, way back, P8, I believe it was. So, but we hope that they would fight back, let's say, Alonso to overtake him and probably fight his way up. And yes, they overtook eventually Alonso, but that's it. Basically, they were not able to climb higher, and of course they took one position up because Norris crashed out, and we will discuss it a little bit later. But overall, Ferrari were not there, and if we look at the timetables, it's also saying that, well, Ferrari was not competitive. They were never fighting for podium this weekend, and that's sad to see. And yes, there is an information that which was not shown on the TV, and I didn't understand at the time why Hamilton was falling back so much. And apparently he had a car damage from, I'm sorry, I'm not so good, I don't know the exact English name, but it's this groundhog or something, like a small animal on the track. Apparently he hit it in, as Fred Wasser said, somewhere in the lap 8 or 9. So that ruined his aero, and ultimately, I hope that this was the reason why he was falling back in a way that he was, at some point he was 40 seconds behind, and he was just nowhere. And he was also coming on the radio saying that he doesn't understand what he's fighting for anymore. Eventually came back P6, 8 points in the championship battle. Okay, so, but overall, also not just Hamilton, also Leclerc, he was coming on the radio. He was not happy about the strategy. He was not happy about how the pit stops were organized, and it was just an awful weekend for Ferrari, and in general, one to forget, in my opinion. And yeah, I don't know, not much to say there. Of course, there was already this rumor before the Canadian Grand Prix about the possible management changes coming to Ferrari. However, I hope that they don't do it, to be honest, because as also Hamilton said, that Fred Vasseur is one of the reasons why he joined the Ferrari, and actually they were showing good results, if we remember, towards the end of last year, and they were in the upward trajectory, and it seemed that it was big thanks to Fred, who was able to actually organize the team and make it better. But this year something is not clicking, and this has been a disease for them for a couple of races, that there are some decisions which they just don't click, and it seems that they have not discussed it beforehand, and like, let's say, which is the plan B, C, or whatever, and there's this kind of a miscommunication. That's what it sounds like. There's something not clicking, and I think I said it in the previous podcast. It seems that there is something not clicking. There is something clashing within the team. Is it some big egos clashing between each other, or there's something? But this is why Vasseur is there. He should organize these things. He has to take it very, very seriously, and I believe he is doing that. But it seems that there is something missing. Yes, they don't have a championship winning car, that's clear. However, they should be able to challenge for podiums, similar as Mercedes. There should be races where they are competitive and they are challenging for the race wins, if not both cars, then at least one car, but it's not there. And Ferrari don't have a win this year. They have a couple of podiums. Well, yes, China sprint race, but it's kind of exception at the moment, so it looks like. But they don't have a dominant race weekend. They haven't had those. When now Mercedes have had it, of course, McLaren have had it, even Red Bull in the form of Verstappen have had it, not Ferrari. And this is the worrying part, and I'm waiting for the moment when they could put it together, when both cars could be on the podium. Hopefully one could win, but they can't put it together for whatever reason, and they need to figure it out. Yes, there is still a long season to go, 14 races to go, so anything can still happen, but they seem to be on a very bumpy ride at the moment, so they need to address that. Another big talking point was McLaren, and the show, let's call it that way, the show they put on display in this race weekend. Oh well, what can I say? By doing this and racing like this, Norris is damaging his, let's say, chances, I guess that's the word, chances for the championship. Lucky for him, I guess, in this particular race, it was not Verstappen who took 25 points, but only 18 points out of this race. But yeah, what can I say? Crashing into back of your teammate, it's a bad mistake from Norris. What's good about it, that Norris was immediately on the radio saying that, apologizing that he caused the crash. It's good for the dynamics of the team, in the sense that there will not be any tension about this, because Norris takes the blame, So in that sense, I guess it's all clear. However, it was very close to Norris also taking out his teammate, and if that would have happened, then it would be a totally different story. I'm not gonna go into if kind of analyzing scenarios, but that would have been bad. Luckily, I guess, for him that it did not happen, and it was just one car crashing out, but that did not look good. And once again, it just kind of shows these little mistakes, and this was not even a little mistake, but in overall, his qualifying did not go good. And this is not the first time when Norris makes but in general, a mistake which damages his chances on winning championship. And this was sort of unforced error. And this is not the first time that this happens. And it just shows that he does not have the consistency to be able to fight for the championship. And yes, it's good in a way that Piastri didn't win, or Verstappen didn't win this race, so they did not collect as many points, so still the order of the championship remains the same. But it's not good. And it's not good for the team, but more importantly for the driver. Because the team has a dominant lead at the moment, they don't have much to worry about. Of course, they can't continue doing like this, anything, but at the moment they don't have to worry about the Constructors' Championship. But for the drivers, Norris lost 10 points basically, at least 10 points, because it seems that there were like 3-4 laps remaining, so it seemed that he could have overtaken Piastri and took the 4th place. I'm not sure if they were able to challenge for P3, but it looked like they could. But then again, as I said, Antonelli was driving very, very well and defending very well, so it was a tough call. But at least it could have been 12 points if he was able to overtake Piastri, but eventually 0 points for Norris, crashed out, and which then of course caused the safety car, and then it was so that the climax of the race was taken away a little bit by this. The finish was basically under the safety car, so yeah, that was thanks to Norris in this particular case, of course. And because of this crash from Norris, also good to see that Alonso and Hülkenberg and Ocon and Sainz was able to take a couple of points. And I think it's huge for Sauber, and this is one thing that I quickly want to touch. Sauber, after the updates in Barcelona, they look, let's say, quite okay. They still lack, don't get me wrong, they are still not podium challenging car, but they look like they have a car with which they can challenge for the points on a consistent pace. And that's good to see. And last time out, of course, there were circumstances, but Hülkenberg was able to take P5 and good points. Now he was P8, and again, a couple of points, 4 points for them. And for the, let's say, for the fight of constructors on the bottom there between Alpine, Kick Sauber, Haas, it's huge. So for them, these couple of points are huge, and I hope they can continue in this kind of a trajectory, and hopefully at some point challenge, if not challenge, then at least under certain circumstances they could take some podium. That would be just underdog story, great to see. Well, it's a little bit of a stretch, but I hope that this can happen at some point. If not this year, then maybe with Audi next year, I don't know. But the Audi project at the moment looks like a little bit of a mess, so I'm not very hopeful that next year they would be able to compete at the top of the timing sheets, but at least they can score points, and that's good to see. That's good to see, really good to see. Second race in a row for Alonso for collecting some points. That's also good to see. So the Aston Martin is also, Aston Martin with Alonso at the wheel is able to score some points. And I guess Aston Martin has a little bit of a similar situation in a way with Red Bull when one driver is much more superior than the other. And that's why I'm not even talking about, I guess, Tsunoda or Stroll, because they had, let's say, again, average, even below average races, and respectively P12 for Tsunoda, P17 for Stroll. Stroll was the last of the cars who actually finished the race, so nothing much to discuss there. But Alonso, he proves that he can put that car in a decent window to challenge for points. Now with the updates, it seems that the car is better. It's still not capable of challenging for podiums or something like that, but at least it's a decent car, and he can manage the car and he can manage to score some points. So that's good to see. Haas, they had a, let's say, relatively quiet race, I would say, and this was their 200th race in F1, but it went a little bit under the radar, in my opinion. There was nothing much happening with them because of Norris's crash at the end. They were almost able to score points with two cars. Realistically, they had a decent race, let's put it that way, because they qualified P14, 15, started respectively 13, 14th, finished 8th and 11th. So you can call it a positive result, I guess, for Haas, but it went a little bit, as I said, under the radar. They scored eventually 2 points, which again is huge for the fight of that P8, 9, 10 in the Constructors' Championship. So nothing much to say about them, because honestly their result and driving into the points is a little bit, maybe in a way, unexpected or under the radar, because they were not much fighting there, except they were holding back Hamilton, or Hamilton was not able to overtake them for a while during the race in the after the pit stops, when he came out between both Haas's, and it looked awful, but I think it was more down to Ferrari looking awful rather than Haas looking good. So overall, good race, good result for Haas. They have a decent race pace. If they could add a couple of tenths to their speed, they could actually start challenging for higher places, but almost both cars in the points, so that's good. And the last team, or last item I want to address, is Williams. And Williams had an abysmal weekend. There were just things not going their way, let's call it that way. And of course it's also down to the organization of the team, how good it is organized, so how good they can put together the weekend. And this weekend was for them one to forget, in my opinion. Yes, Sainz at the end came home with 1 point, so that's good, but overall it was a bad weekend. It was bad qualifying for Williams, especially for Sainz, when he got impeded by Hajar, and so he didn't make it out of Q3, which was very unfortunate, of course. And Hajar took a 3 grid place penalty for that, and that was well deserved. And yeah, awful qualifying for Williams. And then and also in the qualifying, the Albon's this engine cover basically blew up. Well, it didn't blow up, it was just torn apart, but it looked like it blew up. But it was a quick fix. They got him out again, and he was driving, so there was no damage done because of that. But these small things, when the team is not performing, I think those are the ones which matter. And these kind of things, it was just awful. And then during the race, Albon made a mistake in the opening laps. Was it first or second lap, when he went over the curb and probably also damaged the car, I don't know. But then his race went away. He was not happy about the pit stop strategy. He was complaining to a team that they are not listening to him and stuff like that. So, and then eventually he DNF'd. But even without DNF, they had an awful weekend, and those are the small things which do not click, and then the weekend just spirals down. It's kind of like a similar situation with Ferrari, when you have those little small things and they are just slowly ruining your weekend. And I think for Williams, this was the weekend that was slowly ruined by those small things falling apart here and there. A couple of issues there, couple of issues there, and it was just not good. So that was my monologue, I guess, about this race weekend. These were the main things to discuss. And just very quickly at the end, looking at the championship. So we still have the same order in the top 5. Piastri, Norris, Verstappen, Russell, Leclerc. So that's still the top 5. And actually looking at those numbers, it's not that far off for the championship battle, especially with these kind of weekends when all of a sudden McLaren cannot perform, and their damage limitation is 12 points for Piastri. So he is still in the championship lead. Norris is still second. Now there's 22 points between them, and then 21 points for Verstappen is trailing 21 points to Norris, and then 19 points Russell trailing Verstappen. So actually it's quite close between top 4, even top 5. Well, top 5 is a little bit of a stretch, but top 4, Russell, now with this win and adding 25 points to his name, he's creeping up there. Let's call it that way, creeping up there. And nobody was expecting, I guess, for him to challenge for championship. And I'm not saying that he is. There's still, let's say, a huge gap until Piastri. But with these kind of weekends, when McLaren cannot perform and Max is there as always to collect good points, if not challenge for the win, but then at least he's up there. With these kind of weekends, if this continues and having a couple of more, Russell can close in, and that would be even more interesting to see in the Drivers' Championship battle, to see where he can battle and how far he can go. So at the moment, that's interesting, and this is we still have, as I said, 14 races to go, so there's still lots and lots to happen. So, and having this close championship battle, very interesting to see. In the constructors, it's not so interesting. However, Mercedes now is P2. They overtook Ferrari, which is again interesting and a little nail in the coffin of Ferrari. I'm sorry, but that's what it looks like. So Red Bull is still fourth because they cannot score points with just one car and hope to be in the 1, 2, 3 places. So they are 4. Ferrari now is 3rd, Mercedes 2nd, and McLaren still, well, they are dominant at the moment. They don't have nothing to worry about, but they have to be careful in the long run, and they for sure know it. And that's the order. And Kick Sauber is closing to P8. They are still sitting in P9, but they are just 2 points behind Aston Martin. So there's a close battle there. And then also only 4 points, no, 6 points. 6 points ahead is Haas and RB or Racing Bulls. So the battle for the actually from P6 to P10 is quite close at the moment. So a couple of points here or there, and the championship can swing there also. And that's interesting also in the second half of the grid to see how they can fight out these places. So that's it for now. Next stop we have Austria in 2 weeks. Totally different track. So we'll see how the cars stack up there, how the drivers stack up there, who will be the dominant force in Austria. And basically that's it. Yeah, thank you very much for listening. See you in 2 weeks. Stay safe and bye bye.